Okay. I'm going to test the mic here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
It sounds really good?
Yeah.
Is it too loud?
No.
Too soft?
Perfect.
No, good.
Is it English?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Well, my name is Ranger Brian, and I'd like to welcome to everyone's program here tonight. And I'm going to be telling you where I'm from here in a moment, but one of the best parts for me of being a ranger is I get to meet people from all across the United States and all across the world. So just for a moment, I'd like to kind of find out where you guys are from. And I kind of met a few of you guys already, and you were sharing with me you're from, but as you're going to tell, my short-term memory is awful, because I already forgot where you're from.
Seattle.
Seattle area. And then we were just talking before again, where are you guys from?
Vancouver Island.
Vancouver Island. Yes, that's right, because we were talking about reminiscing about Vancouver Island. And then we got a Phillies fan back in there here tonight. Some of my friends are with me here. And I want to thank my friends for coming here tonight. As of 10 to 7, there was no power here. And I was wondering, how am I going to do this evening? I brought props with me like I always do, but it's definitely a better program if I've got the images here. So I want to thank my friends who are in the road for coming here tonight here too. My fellow park employees. Where are you guys from back there?
Boise.
Boise, Idaho. Wonderful. I've driven through there a few times. Beautiful city there. How about you guys right here? Where are you guys from? Portland. Wonderful. How about you, sir?
I'm from Vancouver Island also.
Vancouver Island. Do you guys know each other?
And I will.
Oh, Courtney.
Done.
How about you guys? Where are you guys from?
Northern California.
Reading area, right?
Yes.
I remember. And these are good friends of mine from Talent, Oregon, that used to work here also. I've known them for years. They even brought their dog Daisy, so I feel like I'm right at home. Since I've seen Daisy on many weekends down in Talent and Ashland. How about you guys?
Suburb of Sacramento.
That's right, we were talking before, Sacramento. And how about you guys back there?
Wisconsin,
Where in Wisconsin?
near east of Madison.
Madison. I went to visit a good friend there a few years ago, and I got good friends in Baraboo and Door County.
Oh, the
So-
good places.
Yes, I love visiting Wisconsin. Anybody else want to share where they're from here tonight? Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if you guys think with the camera, or we're going to film me here tonight, see how I do film. I'm thinking about shutting off the lights for the stage here. So it's going to be like the drive-in. Anybody used to go to the drive-in? I'm dating myself, aren't I? I grew up at the drive-in because as a young kid, just started off with cartoons. And then there was a Disney movie, which was fun, you know, like Herbie movie, something like that. And then there would be an R-rated movie, and my dad was expecting the kids, including me, to be asleep during the R-rated movie. And so I was always trying hard to stay awake during the R-rated movie, but as a kid, you know, you fall asleep. So I don't remember too many of those R. So it kind of worked, the plan worked. So whenever I see the floodlights, it reminds me of the old days of the drive-in. But the good news here tonight, you won't be walking away with any of the speakers. Remember how the cars would drive away with those speakers? Well. On behalf of the National Park Service and Crater Lake National Park, my name is Ranger Brian, and I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I was born and raised, which, by the way, has the tallest man-made monument here in the United States, the Gateway Arch, 630 feet tall, taller than the Washington Monument, the Statue of Liberty, and that's also run by the Park Service. When I go back to St. Louis, it's always fun to see the rangers there, too. And I've been working here at Crater Lake National Park off and on for 20 years. I haven't changed a bit, have I? Actually, I've changed a little bit over the years. Because at one point, even this summer, I had long hair and a beard. So I kind of look like a scruffy character, kind of like a character in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Anybody remember that theme music?
Yeah.
So that is our theme here tonight. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to talk about how changes with local temperatures, picas, white bark pines, and snowpack may be an indication that global climate change is affecting or impacting Crater Lake. Well, what is global climate change? When I was putting this the program myself, I thought I should probably define it so at least I understand what's going on. And I went with the international definition, the United Nations itself, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is over 2,000 scientists which get together pretty much every year and try to do an assessment of how the planet's climate is doing. And their definition is a change of climate caused by human activity altering the global atmosphere, and that is in addition to natural climate variability over the same periods of time. So yes, the climate does vary, but the key question is, how are humans impacting the climate? Well, most scientists believe that when we burn carbon dioxide, when we turn on your car engine and burn gasoline, you're releasing carbon dioxide. And when you flip on your lights, like we did here a few minutes ago for the amphitheater, many cases here in the United States, over 50% of the time, we're using like coal. And when you burn coal, you're giving off carbon dioxide too, which releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And carbon dioxide, we do have a natural greenhouse effect. So it's not that carbon dioxide is bad. Without carbon dioxide, the average temperature of the planet would be 0 degrees, and it'd be hard for any of us to live here. What carbon dioxide does is it traps heat in the upper part of the atmosphere, traps part of the Earth's energy coming from the sun, at least about a third of it, and it makes the average temperature of the planet, when you average it out, from the polar regions to Death Valley in the Sahara, an average about 59 degrees, which was kind of like a day-to-day at Crater Lake. But the problem is that since the Industrial Revolution, we've increased that CO2 blanket about 30%. So we're trapping more of the sun's heat, or in the Earth's heat. And we've noticed a difference since 1959 off of Mauna Loa volcano off Big Island, Hawaii. They've been measuring carbon dioxide, noticing it's steadily going up. And before that, with ice core samples in Antarctica and Greenland. And as carbon dioxide goes up, as the blanket goes up, the Earth gets warmer. And during the past ice ages, when the carbon dioxide would go down, the Earth would cool off. So there's kind of an interplay between both of those. Whereas the average temperature of the planet has gone up about 1 degree globally, over the past 100 years in Alaska, it's actually gone up 5 degrees. And then they've noticed big changes in areas like Kenai Fords National Park at Bear Glacier. Well, this was Bear Glacier in 1909, and that's what it looks like here today. There's another glacier, Peterson Glacier in 1909. This is what it looked like 100 years ago. And that's what Peterson Glacier looks like today. The other one that's a little bit more troubling for me is the Northwest Glacier. This is the change since the lifetime of my parents. Both my parents were born in 1940. And this is what a Northwestern Glacier looked like in 1940. And that's what it pretty much looks like here today. How about closer to us? Glacier National Park in Alaska. This is what, I believe it's the Grinnell Glacier. Looked like in 1913. This is what it looks like there today. It's amazing when you have these pictures side by side. And what really concerns scientists, NASA scientists and the National Park Service, is that we may be losing all the glaciers in Glacier National Park for the next 25 years. But a different national park, Joshua Tree in Southern California. Scientists are very worried that we may lose the iconic Joshua trees in the next 50 years with increasing temperatures. It may be too hot for Joshua trees in that habitat. And Everglades National Park. I worked there off and on for 16 years, leading ranger programs there also. Here's that scruffy guy look again. And Everglades National Park, very shallow, right along the coastline. The mangrove trees growing about 2 to 4 feet of water. They're right along the coastline. See if my clicker is going to, I'll use this one instead. The mangroves are in this lime green area here, the middle third of the park. And when I was there, some of the rangers were talking about erosion along the coastline from sea level rise. As glaciers in Alaska are melting, and also Greenland and Antarctica, it's raising sea level. The sea level, I believe, rose about 8 inches in the 20th century, 4 to 8 inches. And before that, it was rising just a few inches centuries before that. So we're noticing some erosion along the coastline. Keep in mind, Everglades National Park itself, its highest point in the park is about 8 feet above sea level. And most of Miami's right along sea level too. And so many scientists think that by the end of the 21st century, we could have a sea level rise unless climate change, we get more of a handle on it. And the highest point on the Park Road in Everglades National Park, only about 3 feet above sea level. So a 3-foot sea level rise, we could lose most of Everglades National Park. Well, is climate change impacting Crater Lake? And that's kind of the key question tonight. And another way to look at it, to ask about it too, is the lake itself being impacted by climate change? Well, tomorrow if you get on the north side of the lake, make sure you try to squint with your eyes in the center area, kind of right around there. You'll see kind of a white dot out there. And if the sun's shining at a different angle, it may look black. That little black dot is actually a buoy out in Crater Lake. And that buoy is actually connected to a satellite. And if you go on this website, and I believe also the U.S. Geological Survey website, pretty much updates every hour and gives kind of conditions on Crater Lake. Basically the water temperature, the air temperature, wind speed, wind direction, and general humidity. And so we use that buoy. That's one of the ways we monitor to see how healthy the lake is doing. Our park research staff regularly monitors that buoy, making sure it's functioning properly. And we also have a couple of research boats on Crater Lake with a research staff, measuring the clarity of the water, the pH, the fish, algae, and other factors in the lake to see how healthy the lake is doing. And I got to go out with the lake researchers in 2009. This is Mark Botanica. He was able to scoop up some phytoplankton. Or actually, yeah, this was actually the zooplankton, the Daphnia. And I actually brought a sample with me here to you. You're more than welcome to check this out after the program. So this is what the zooplankton looks like. It's Daphnia, and it's actually the primary food for our kokanee salmon in the lake. So we've got 13 different species of zooplankton, and we've also got 150 different species of phytoplankton in Crater Lake. A couple of species that kind of stood out for me was this Vanilla terminalis. To me, that name kind of sounds like a bad guy, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's also this Caratella quadrara dispensia, which to me kind of looks like Pokemon. We've also got introduced crayfish in Crater Lake since 1915, and introduced rainbow trout and kokanee salmon. 100 years ago, the park had this idea, and even our park founder, Will Steele, of stocking Crater Lake with fish to attract visitors to come up here. So today we've got hundreds of thousands of rainbow trout and kokanee salmon living in Crater Lake. And the trout can get pretty good size, up to 20 inches or so, a couple pounds, and they are delicious to eat. And there's no fishing license on Crater Lake. It's actually catch and keep. Take them home with you. Take as many as you want home with you. We just ask that you use artificial bait, no salmon eggs, power bait, or worms. So we've got a pretty healthy fish population in Crater Lake. And this was quite an event for me this summer because I caught my first fish on Crater Lake. A 9-inch kokanee salmon, and man, it was delicious when I fried it up for dinner that night. And that's about as big as the kokanee salmon, get about 9 inches. And our biggest life form by far in Crater Lake is the Crater Lake moss. And there's areas in the lake where it's upwards of 30 feet thick. So if you get too close to it, they're all that moss, they could swallow you up like a monster. And what amazes scientists about the moss living in Crater Lake is the water clarity is so clear that the moss can't really live any higher than 85 feet because of all the UV light in Crater Lake. Crater Lake is so clear it lets in a lot of UV light, but at the same time, the lake is so clear that enough sunlight penetrates down that the moss can live upwards of 460 feet. 460 feet, that's higher, or that's deeper than the height of the Statue of Liberty. So because of our incredible clarity of Crater Lake, we got moss living in deep levels, but also moss can't penetrate to a certain level because of all the UV light. So there's the sunlight showing how deep it can go down in there. And one of the best ways we know about the health of Crater Lake is with a Secchi disc. And I even brought one with me here tonight. And you guys are more than welcome to shine your flashlight on me right now just to get a better look at it here. This is actually about, I believe it's like an 8-inch disc. And what you do is you drop this in Crater Lake until you no longer see it. And our average reading, just our average reading with a Secchi disc is about 100 feet. Let's compare it to some other bodies of water. Lake Tahoe, which straddles the California-Nevada border, they have 70 feet. And I've read articles, they used to have 100 feet 100 years ago, but they've lost about 30 feet with their development. And just to the south of us, about a 30-minute drive south of us, Klamath Lake, the clarity is so bad in Klamath Lake, you can't even see your feet in there. So we got incredible clarity in Crater Lake. And the clarity here comes with something else that's what's really about Crater Lake too, is how the sunlight interacts with water. Who here has seen a rainbow? So when you're looking at a rainbow, you're looking at a sun ray going through a rain shower. Well, you're kind of experiencing the same thing when you look at the water of Crater Lake. You're looking at a sun ray, which is made up of white light. That got bright for you guys, didn't you? Sorry about that there. Sunlight is white light. It's all the colors of the spectrum. So when all that white light goes into Crater Lake, the reds, orange, and yellows get absorbed immediately. The greens penetrate a little bit deeper. The blues penetrate the deepest. And the blue part of the sun ray vibrates at the same frequency that water molecules vibrate. And that's what gives it that amazing blue color. So you're actually seeing the grand experiment, how sunlight interacts with clear and deep water. Well, the true color of Crater Lake is actually ultraviolet, but our eyes can't detect that. So we have ultraviolet that really penetrates deeper really than anywhere else. What amazes scientists about Crater Lake is that Crater Lake actually set a new benchmark standard of how deep UV light can penetrate a body of water. Scientists thought this was the benchmark, and Crater Lake actually beat that. So we have incredible clarity in this lake, world-class clarity. But we are noticing, though, with climate change, some subtle changes here in the park, especially at night, especially in the summertime. Our summertime air temperatures have gone up a few degrees. It's about 4 degrees since over the last 30 years. And as a result, the surface water of the lake has gone up. It's about 4 degrees there also. Now, you probably won't notice it if you're swimming in Crater Lake, because to me it still feels really cold. I jumped in last year, and I jumped back out as fast as I could. It's a little bit chilly for me. So what is that water temperature in Crater Lake? Well, this is done in metrics here, so let me try to translate it for you. The first foot of Crater Lake on a hot day in August gets upwards of almost 60 degrees. But then it's quickly dropping down the 40s, and then about 200 feet down the bottom, Crater Lake is about 38 degrees. So scientists call this stratification. You keep that in mind. With the warm water on the top, colder water on the bottom. The wintertime, here's the warm water on top, colder water on the bottom. So the wintertime it kind of flips, where you get about 34 degrees on the surface, and it's still that 38 degrees at the bottom. Stratification with warm water on top, cold water on the bottom. Think of it like chocolate cake, with the icing on top, with the icing on top and the cake on the bottom. Well, the problem with climate change, with the warming temperatures, we're noticing that summer stratification with the warm water on top, colder on the bottom, it's now 29 days earlier. And the thermocline, the cold layer of water now, is actually getting less in Crater Lake. It's actually declined about 4.7 meters, about 15 feet. So in other words, I had to kind of wrap my own brain around this because I'm a non-scientist myself. So the way I kind of had to understand the stratification is, you're thinking of like chocolate cake with the icing being the warm water and the cake being the cold water. Basically, the icing is getting thicker, and the cold water, the cake itself, is getting shallower. And these changes with the less cold water in the lake itself and more warm water on top, this has actually been noticed in other lakes across North America. Superior, Huron, Lake in Wisconsin, I believe that's by Madison, Minnesota, Ontario, Tahoe, and lakes in Washington State. But what's the ecological ramifications of this? This is kind of a complicated graphic that scientists like to use. But basically, there's just one thing to keep in mind, folks, is that with warm water, there is some concern that it could spur some algae in Crater Lake. And then we could drop off our clarity. But so far, Crater Lake is doing good. So thumbs up to Crater Lake. Well, this guy may disagree that things are good at Crater Lake. He has a message for us here tonight. Sorry, dude, but global climate change is already bad for us. Well, who is this dude? Anybody know?
The pika.
The American pika. Doesn't it look like a scruffy character? in that picture? Isn't he cute too? You guys can all say aw if you want. But he sure looks like a scruffy character. Kind of like this guy right here. Well, thank you. I always love when people do that during my program. This is the range of the American pika. Pretty much the Cascades in the Sierra Nevadas up into Canada, and also the Rockies, Yellowstone, all up into Canada there too. And pikas like to live on talus slopes, basically loose, rocky slopes where they like to live. And they live in high elevations from typically about 13,000 feet down to about 8,000 feet. And this is their locations here in the park. We've had pika surveys going on for the past 3 summers, and the red dots are basically, over the last couple years, starting in 2010, fresh areas of pika evidence, and then yellow has old evidence, and blue is where we didn't really, we tried to survey, there probably should be there, that's good habitat, but we're not finding them there. And pikas, remember I mentioned talus, rocky slopes before. Talus like to depend upon cool, moist areas for their slopes for nesting, den sites, and food caches. And they're isolated by temperature. Pikas like to live in areas with less than 30 days above 95 degrees. And they love Crater Lake, because in an area like Crater Lake, they can live in areas here where we have more than 150 days below 32 degrees. So you're not going to find these guys in Texas or Florida, warm areas like that. By the way, who likes winter here? I like winter.
Yeah.
Well, you got something in common with the pikas then, because some may like it hot, but pikas like it cold. So this is a picture I took of a pika last May, walking on the West Rim Drive before it was opened up for the season, along the rocks, pretty much right along the road. Can you guys see him in the picture there, the American pika? Right there, and close up. They do a call, it's kind of like, eek, eek, eek. That's probably the worst pika call you'll ever hear. There you go, that's much better, over there. So it's kind of an eek call, so you listen for them. A lot of times you'll hear them up here, especially if you're walking that Western Drive in the spring before it opens up to vehicle traffic. And so relating to tonight's question, how does global climate change impact pikas? Well, pikas have a really hot internal body temperature, up to upwards of 104 degrees. Isn't that crazy? You and me have 104 degrees. We're checking into a hospital, aren't we? And they can live at an internal temperature up to 109 degrees, which is about as hot as you and I can stand in a bathtub. Pika fur does not allow for heat to disperse quickly. So heat stress can kill pikas, even without rising temperatures. And pikas can die with outside temperatures higher than 78 degrees. And climate change, this is kind of a term that scientists use. If animals are going up in elevation to avoid climate change, especially in a mountainous habitat, some of them are running out of habitat. So scientists will use the term they're kind of going to heaven. And over the past 100 years, pika populations have moved uphill, upslope, upwards of 900 feet. And as of 2004, the National Park Service surveying different areas, and I think other researchers have determined at least 9 of the 25 Great Basin populations have gone extinct. So imagine losing 9 of your best friends, and you don't even get to choose who. But we're trying to study pikas, figure out what's going on. We're in the third year, the third summer now, of a program called Pikas in Peril. 8 national parks, so if you guys get a chance to, next summer, are still traveling around to visit other national parks like Lassen, Laubitz, Crater of the Moon, Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, Rocky Mountain, Great Sand Dunes. These are other parks and preserves that are also studying pikas, and they need to be telling you about pikas also in their ranger programs. And so these national parks, including us, we're trying to study the pikas' vulnerable, just exactly how vulnerable are they to climate change. And our researcher, Jeff Murphy, a picture of him here. This is him from about 2010. 2010, I haven't gotten the surveys, the stats yet for 2012, but 2010 he surveyed 85 locations. 2011, 50 additional spots, set up an area about 79 feet across, looked and listened. How does that pika call go again? Look and listen for about 5 minutes for their sounds. And we're one of the 4 parks going to try to have permanent pika monitoring. And for the kids here, you know one of the best ways to research them? We look at their poop here. We look at their piles of poop, and you actually pull out their DNA to figure out what are they eating and how healthy they are, how many males and females. So their poop actually is a good indication of how the pikas are doing, and also for their genetic diversity, how good the population is, how healthy the population is. And why are we doing this here? Well, we're doing this because that is the mission of the National Park Service, to conserve and protect the scenery, not just for us, but for future generations. So, what's your guys' names up here? What's your name? Lily? Pilar? Am I saying that right? So Lily and Pilar, when they bring their grandkids here someday, hopefully, if we're doing a good job of protecting them and monitoring them, hopefully when these guys bring their grandkids here someday, they got a chance to show them pikas here also. We talked about the good, we talked about the bad, and unfortunately, we got to talk about the ugly. You can boo if you want. The mountain pine beetles. This is the bad guy in our program here. If they were a character in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, they'd be wanted dead or alive. Good whistle job there. Because they are attacking our white bark pine trees. Now they are native here, but they're actually increasing in kind of their numbers and their attacks on our trees, especially our white bark pine trees. This tree is by the Crater Lake Lodge. It's at the start of the Garfield Peak Trail. As you walk by in some of these trees around Mid-Village, you'll see these really neat designs. But they're really not neat designs because what the female bug does, the mountain pine beetle, she lays her eggs inside the inner bark, and the female and the juveniles, they just attack it. They starve the tree of nutrients going after the inner bark. So these designs, while they look great, they're actually a sign that of mountain pine beetles attacking our trees, especially our white bark pine trees. And there's that larvae right in that bark making those trails. Very tiny bugs too. Here's one on top of a matchstick. And again, not that big, almost a third of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. So if you stretch out your pinky, they're not quite as wide as your pinky finger. And even though they are so tiny, they are the Crater Lake Monster. And by the way, that's a really bad movie. I do not recommend it. It always seems like when I get together with my coworkers each summer, somebody always has the great idea to watch this movie. Don't. It came out about the same time as Star Wars did, and that's why you haven't heard of it. It wasn't even filmed at Crater Lake. It was filmed in upstate New York. It's a really bad movie. But the point is that the mountain pine beetle is our Crater Lake Monster, because they are attacking, they've moved up in elevation with warmer and less snowy winters and attacking our white bark pine trees. Where was this picture taken? I know? It was taken right here. I took that myself in March of 2009, and for some strange reason, we did not have an evening program that night. But the point I'm trying to make is that our snow and our winter temperatures, our winter temperatures are actually going up, getting a little bit warmer, and we'll talk a little bit later about less snow in the park. And so that's actually enabling mountain pine beetles who don't like cold and snow to make it through the wintertime. So our temperatures have gone up a few degrees. And so as they're surviving through the winter, they're now attacking our white bark pine trees, which you see, there's a lot, and I took this right by, next to the lodge at Rim Village. So what's the big deal about white bark pine trees? Well, white bark pine trees are amazing trees. They're basically the highest elevation trees in the Cascades. They're also found in the Sierra Nevadas. A lot of them found in Yellowstone, in the Grand Teton, central Idaho, and up into Canada. And if you squint your eyes on this map, kind of hard to see, but the purple splotches that you see there, which is the spine of the Cascades, and actually the mountains in northeastern Oregon, that's where the white bark pine trees are found. And incidentally, the Rim Drive here at Crater Lake National Park, that's the highest elevation road here in Oregon. So pretty much here at Crater Lake, you can open up your car door and touch these trees on the West Rim Drive or East Rim Drive. Anywhere else in Oregon, you're pretty much hiking up the side of a mountain to try to see white bark pine trees. They're neat trees as they grow really high up in elevation. Pretty much 8,000 feet and above, they've got the habitat to themselves. So white bark pine forest, pure forest, they're located too harsh for any other tree species because they get the brunt of winter snow and winds that kind of hammer the sides of these mountains, and they don't mind at all because historically they would keep in check from other trees and also mountain pine beetles. If we didn't have these trees, it would be relatively unforested here. So these trees also probably keep some soil in place, enabling also that incredible clarity of Crater Lake. So without these trees, I don't think it'd be as pretty on top of our mountaintops, and we may have some soil, more soil going to Crater Lake. And so without these trees, it'd be unforested. It's too harsh for the other tree species up that elevation traditionally. And so there's other animals. There's probably golden mantled ground squirrels and other animals that probably like a nest on their base there. And there's white bark pine. There's actually Clark's nutcracker that likes to eat the seeds of the white bark pines. So the Clark's nutcracker, since he likes to eat the seeds, he's known as a keystone species. So the cones, they have a hard-shelled cones. And I actually brought with me here tonight, you guys are more than welcome to check out afterwards, some of the cones that the Clark's nutcracker has actually pecked into to get into the seeds. So they got a hard-shelled cone that the Clark's nutcracker digs in there to get the seeds. And a single cone, we're talking about one cone, contains up to about 100 seeds. So Clark's nutcracker, he's got a pouch underneath his bill that he can hold up to 100 seeds. He's got that sharp bill for pecking in there. He's got a hole underneath his tongue for that pouch. And so Clark's nutcracker has a specialized pouch for holding up to 100 seeds. He can transport some seeds up to 14 miles. And he buries them in caches about 5 to 15. And a single bird, we're talking about one bird here, folks, can bury up to 90,000 seeds in a summer. And they bury them for a winter, spring food source. And they bury about 30,000 caches. And when scientists test their memory skills, they can remember about 90% of their caches a month later and 50% a year later. Isn't that amazing? I can remember where my car keys are at from time to time. And my cell phone, and my wallet, my sunglasses. That's amazing how many different piles of seeds I can remember. And they only go through about half their piles of seeds. What happens to the seeds that they don't eat?
Sprout in the trees.
Yeah, they become white bark pine trees. So if Clark's nutcracker was here tonight, he probably would tell you that he's very concerned about his best friend, the white bark pines, because the mountain pine beetles are moving uphill with our warmer and less snowy winters and attacking our white bark pine trees. But here at Crater Lake National Park, we're trying to do what we can to protect the white bark pines from the mountain pine beetles. What our biologists and scientists and the staff are doing, they're actually stapling pheromone packets to some of our white bark pine trees. And what these do is they mimic a scent the females give off to each other. The females, when the tree is full of bugs, the female gives off a scent that basically the tree is full of bugs. So we're trying to do the same thing. So we staple these pheromone packets to the tree. We're trying to send a message to these bugs. And the message is basically, beat it, pal, go away. The tree is already full of bugs. No vacancies here. And if baseball star Yogi Berra could talk to me, tell him, nobody goes there anymore, it's too crowded. Well, the scary part is that mountain pine beetles are not the only threat or bad guy. Unfortunately, another ugly threat is starting to emerge. Where does Crater Lake get its water from? Snow and rain. Yeah, we say like about 44 feet of snow. This is a picture taken several years ago in early May. You guys got to come up here in May sometime. With a tremendous amount of snow that we get. So we say about 44 feet, about 520 inches, and that's actually averaged out over many years. However, when we average it out by decade, we're noticing something going on here at Crater Lake. In the 1930s, we were averaging about 614 inches of snow. 1940s, it went up to 623, and then it's been steadily decreasing by decade. So we've been noticing our average snowpack has been going down. Scientists think because of climate change. And I've been noticing differences myself. That's one of the reasons why I put together this evening program. Because I'm noticing more in May, it raining more and snowing less. And I've been telling people that typically by this time, we have a couple snow showers here in September. And this year it's been dry as a bone and really warm. So I've been noticing some subtle changes myself with the weather here over the past 20 years. Well, who cares about less snowpack? What's the big deal about that? Well, who here is from a western state? Anybody here is from a western state? And what's a western state? Oregon,
Washington.
Washington, California, Idaho, Nevada, Colorado. Western states get up to 75% of their water from snowpack. So snowpack is a big deal if you live in a western state, isn't it? States that rely upon snowpack for water provide more than 75% of our fresh fruit. Who here likes to eat fresh fruit? I know I like strawberries and blackberries from Oregon and blueberries and things like that. So yeah, so less snowpack can impact some of our fruit. And since 1950, spring snowpack has actually reduced as much as 60% in the United States. And local communities, I have noticed kind of some changes here in Oregon too. Crater Lake, we're at the top of the Klamath River Basin watershed. And so as our snow melts, it goes downhill into Klamath Lake. Klamath Falls at the south end of Klamath Lake, and there's tens of thousands of people living in Klamath Falls. Then you get south of Klamath Lake, you get the Klamath River, more thousands of people living there. So less snowpack in the mountains does impact the downstream communities. And if you ever follow the news here in southern Oregon, man, there's some nasty fights sometimes between the cattle farmers, the salmon fishermen, and other farmers in the cities over who uses this water, especially this diminishing water pie with less snowpack in the mountains. And that's not the only water basin that Crater Lake is the top of. We're way up here. We're kind of at the top of the Rogue River Basin. The Rogue River comes right out of the ground in the northeastern corner of the park, we think is a snow melt. So the Rogue River goes downhill, provides water for Prospect, Eagle Point, the north side of Medford, Grants Pass. There's tens of thousands of people that rely upon snowpack in the mountains, especially in the Crater Lake area too. So less snowpack definitely is an impact on downstream communities. And we're also real close to the Umpqua Rivershed there too. And there's tens of thousands of people living in Roseburg and other areas. So less snowpack in the mountains, that's a big deal for people living in downstream communities here in Oregon. Well, how is Crater Lake, since we're concerned about that here in the park, how is Crater Lake taking action to reduce the threat of climate change? One of the first things we have going on here, which is beneficial for you guys, is we've got trolley tours. This is our third summer we have trolley tours, and I narrate them. They're a lot of fun to do. They go around the lake for 2 hours, and they actually run on compressed natural gas. And that compressed natural gas, I've heard, can use up to 90% less than a large RV here in the park. By encouraging our visitors to carpool and ride together on the trolley, that's a way that we can use less carbon dioxide in the park. Plus, you got a ranger to give you a lot of fun information. We're trying to implement a program of carbon offset stickers in the park, too. So this is a program we've been trying to put together for several years now. That we do finally release them. They're going to cost like $2 a piece, and then we're going to do this in conjunction with other national parks. They're going to have stickers that can have a symbol from their park, and they're going to try to offset with $2 150 miles traveled in the average automobile, and those proceeds are going to go towards investing in renewable energy or capturing methane from landfills. We're also trying to implement here in the park where we can electric cars to travel around our housing and headquarters areas. Cars that run on electricity. We're also using hybrid cars. The car I drove here tonight was a hybrid vehicle. So the park is trying to purchase more of, when we can, hybrid vehicles for employees that need to be transported around. And we're trying to implement, too, mobile solar arrays. We're trying to do this in conjunction with the Oregon Institute of Technology down in Klamath Falls. So during the wintertime, those classes, there's some other classrooms, are going to be heated by solar energy. And then we'll bring these up in the summertime, and they'll provide energy for our Science and Learning Center. So we're trying to make our Science and Learning Center carbon neutral in the park. Anybody come in from the north entrance? From the north entrance station? When you come in that north entrance and pay that $10, that north entrance station is run 100% on solar power. And I've been working here in the park, and as long as I've been here, those solar panels are right off in the woods. 100% using 100% renewable energy. So we're already doing that here at Crater Lake National Park. We just have to do a lot more of that. So who owns Crater Lake National Park?
We do.
Yeah, you guys do. As Oregon citizens, American citizens, and world citizens. You guys own Crater Lake National Park. And so that's where you guys play a role here also. I think it's good for you guys to hold our feet to the fire. We do have comment forms in our visitor centers. And make sure that you grab a comment form. And when you can, fill out comment forms of the things that we're doing great, but also things we need to do and improve upon. And don't be afraid to ask us. And our superintendent, Craig Ackerman, he looks at all these comment forms and to ask, hey, I heard Ranger Brian talk about mobile solar arrays. Where are they? Where are your hybrid cars? Make sure you hold our feet to the fire here in the park. I think it's important for you guys to be as tough on us as Clint Eastwood would be in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So that's been my theme here tonight, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm convinced that here inside Crater Lake National Park, and for you guys at home, if we can find ways to reduce our carbon emissions when we drive our cars and use electricity, if we can reduce our carbon, hopefully it'll continue to be good for Crater Lake itself. It'll be even better for the pikas, and hopefully those mountain pine beetles will just go away. And we're protecting Crater Lake not just for us, but future generations, especially my friends here in the front row. We want them to come here in future years and just be just as beautiful of a place. And I'm convinced if we do a good job of protecting Crater Lake, as well as our planet, future generations are going to thank us for doing a good job. Well, that is my program here tonight. I appreciate you guys coming. You guys have been a wonderful group here. And I will be around if you have any questions for me. I'm going to turn back on the music and flip on the lights here, but I'll be up in the front if you have any questions. But thank you for joining here tonight. It was a pleasure doing this for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here come the lights. Oh, great question. The lowest point is Red Blanket Canyon, and it's 4,400 feet, and the highest point is Mount Scott. You're at 6,000 feet right now. And the surface length is 6176, and the rim is 7,000. Yeah, your robo-looks I wish we could size them parts that would tell you when you're at lake level. You know, your elevation 6176, the same elevation as the lake itself. I wish we did that before. Here, but yeah, you're actually below lake level here. I'm off tomorrow and Monday, but I will be doing it Tuesday. It's the community house up at Rim Village. When you first get to Rim Village, you're going to go around the gift store and cafeteria, and when the road straightens out, it's the first building you're right. Typically, the trolley's up there from about 9 a.m., so you'll see the trolley itself. I saw a trolley.